Okay, welcome to this webinar. Excuse me, I just ran in here. As a preliminary matter, I just wanted to note that my hair, for some reason, in this camera, is making my hair look a little green. So, if that's what you're seeing, my hair actually isn't green. It's just something a little wrong with the camera. So uh, this particular webinar today is actually probably one of the more important webinars that you could ever watch. And it's going to teach you some very, very profound lessons about success and about why people go to good schools, why people try to get into certain groups, and why certain people coming out of different environments will often fail, no matter really what they do. And I see this firsthand in my job with people all the time that never reach their full potential. And it's because of what I'm going to talk about today. And just a hugely important topic. If you understand it, it will change your life and the direction of your life, and it will also profoundly change your career. You know, right before this webinar started, I was taking a few notes, and it occurred to me something very interesting. So I used to be in business with this Tony Robbins, who's I mean, if you're young, you may not know who he is, but he's a motivational speaker and company, and he someone from one of his colleagues invited me to this event that was held at Spago or something in Beverly Hills, where they rented out a room. And there was a guy there that had sold this real estate company for hundreds of millions of dollars, and but he was unhappy, and so he decided to spend all this money, all this money that he had. He decided to invest in spending like a year or more traveling around and paying like the most successful gurus and personal development people and everything to teach him. And he got up and he gave this presentation. I didn't really understand it because it was just I don't know, he wasn't communicating very well. But then what I did is then a short time later, someone from one of his business managers came out and told me that what he learned, and I just remembered it today. And so that's what I'm going to talk about today. Is this guy, with hundreds of millions of dollars, went out and learned this lesson, and it's just very, very interesting. How that works, and I'm going to talk about that today. I'll tell you what he told them at the end, but you may come to understand that as I talk, what the lesson is. So the way these webinars work, if you're new to the webinar, is that I will give a presentation on this topic, and then after the presentation, we'll take a quick break for like a minute or two, and then excuse me, then I will come back and we'll answer questions. And the questions can be about this webinar, or they can be about pretty much anything you have related to your career. So these are fun, but this particular topic is huge because this really is something that can drastically change your career, and may also explain why you're not where you want to be in your career right now. So, and then what you can do to fix it, what you can do to take charge and have a very good career if you're young or if you're older, the things that you can do to have a good career. So it's very common for people to go to very good law schools and get jobs in great firms and then have these careers that go nowhere. I see this all the time. I see it on a daily basis, multiple times a day when people are looking for jobs or I'm looking at their resumes. And this really wouldn't happen if you have values and you see the world in a manner that supports your legal career going in a certain direction. And I'll tell this kind of personal story of a time in my life when my dad was going through a second divorce, and at the time he was his ex-wife or soon-to-be ex-wife was living upstairs with her daughter and son, who were older. I think the daughter might have been, 18 or 19, and the son was 24, something like that. And my dad was living in the basement, and I was living upstairs in my room, and had to go by them. And it was just strange because the divorce was pretty contentious, and my stepmother's family and my stepmother was not talking to me. And so, things happened where I would need to use the kitchen, and, I'd pass them in the halls each day. And it just was a very like uncomfortable, unpleasant situation, as you can imagine. So it just wasn't a good thing. And there was just a lot of hostility, and there was nothing horrible about the divorce. I mean, they just didn't get along. But the position I was in was not a great position. The environment didn't necessarily accept me, and it just wasn't fun. It felt like an outsider in my own house, and it just wasn't that pleasant. So this was obviously probably not the happiest thing in my life with, just, that was happening. But the reason I was talking to my dad is I'd gone to get something to eat, and the stepbrother said something to his mother and sister, like, isn't it great getting to that home cooked meal and someone that cares about you and having a mom and stuff that does. I told my dad about that, and he was kind of depressed. And he started telling me that, he had all these peers that he'd gone to college with, and then I guess law school, that were much more successful than him, and he felt unsuccessful compared to them, and it made him very sad. And now he was failing, I guess, in his second marriage. He called himself a two-time loser, and then he was comparing himself to his peers, and his peers. I mean, he'd gone to Harvard for college and the University of Michigan Law School, and then had flunked out of there. So at that age, what struck me, and it's something that I see a lot of times from attorneys, is, he was, he allowed the way he saw him. He was comparing himself to others, and that was something that was influencing his happiness. He just saw himself in comparison to other people, and so he was unhappy because of what other people that he'd known 30 years ago were doing. And I at the time was also in a very challenging environment. I wasn't feeling that good, and so when you're around people that don't support you and love you and give you approval, or it just doesn't feel good. I mean, everyone, myself included, and everyone on this webinar, you need people around you that are supporting you. You need to be around people that that are saying good things to you. It's, I mean, not negative towards you, and everyone wants to do well. And arguably, I mean, a lot of things that you do as a person, whether it's get degrees or things, is you're looking for approval and that sort of thing. So what I want to talk about now are like some of the reasons that people try to get into the best colleges and law schools and social groups. Really, the material you learn in any school is pretty much the same. If you take physics in one college, you're going to take the same thing in another college. If you all the stuff in law school and so forth, all the material is the same. But what differs when you go to certain schools and colleges and things are the expectations of the people that you're around and what's important to them and the kind of backgrounds they're coming out of. So if you're around people with very, very high hopes, I mean, you're going to desire to, fit in, get their approval, and be seen positively. And then the more competitive your peers are, the worse you're going to feel if you don't meet their expectations. And the more demanding your peer group is, the harder you're going to push yourself to be, around people that are succeeding at that level. You're going to have role models. You're going to have people that are trying to do things a certain way. You're going to have people talking about things. All this sort of stuff is going to happen when you're around people that think a certain way, and that's one reason why people often do better that go to certain schools or that work at certain firms. They will do better because of the expectations and the way that people around them are thinking. And this is a very important point. And it's really, in a lot of respects, the whole point of us trying to be part of a certain group. The people that achieve the most are often defining themselves according to standards set by their peers. So, the people that in the best firms often will achieve more because of how they define themselves according to their peers. And I'll talk again more about that in a few minutes. When I was, this is just kind of an example to show you how peer groups work. When I was younger, from the time I was, in high school all the way through law school, I had this asphalt business in Detroit. And I had to decide in that business, like what type of people to hire. And I did it in a bunch of ways. And I'll tell you the kind of people that worked out and didn't. There was always certain types of people that I'd hire that wouldn't work out. The most obvious suspects or people that I would hire were, and the easiest to find, were kids that I knew, because all around me there were lots of kids that were willing to work. They were my age, and I could hire them pretty easily. I would go to a party. So I usually did a lot of work on Saturdays, so I might go to a party on a Friday night, stand around a keg, meet people, and then ask them if they wanted to go to work in the morning. Offer to pay them, what seemed like what was a lot of money back then, which might have been like $20 an hour or something. Worse today, that would probably be 40, 50, who knows. And so people would jump at the opportunity. I'd pick them up, and then we'd go out for this grueling day of work in the hot sun on blacktop parking lots, and often in the middle of nowhere. And the work was just very nasty and dirty, and people that I hired would often disappear during these jobs, meaning they would say something like, I'm going to go across the street and get something to eat, and they just never would come back. And so a lot of people would never last, more than a day, and they would be hung up, like literally like in bed, resting for these kids that I was meeting for days afterwards, and they'd be sunburned, and the tar, we were using tar, and it'd always get on people's skin, and you need to use gasoline to get it off you. And so a lot of times, people, I would go out then on Saturday after the people on Friday quit, and I'd meet people as well to do the work. And it was just kind of funny. I was trying to hire people I knew. It just was very, very difficult. And during the week, I often have to do the work on my own. And And the reason I bring this up is that when I was hiring people in my neighborhood to do the work and stay in social circles, they often felt like even though they might have been working as a cashier in a bowling alley or something, this particular work they felt they were above, and they didn't want to work for a peer, and they weren't getting the same rewards that I was for doing hard work. Meaning, I may not have it was my business, and I enjoyed it because I got to make customers happy and making money, but they didn't get any of that, and they didn't want to be seen as working for a peer, and especially in a job like this, and they were often very concerned about how others saw them, and just their vision of themselves wasn't about doing hard labor. It was more along the lines of stuff of working in offices and clerical things, even if it didn't pay as much money. And they also wanted, they believed that they were better than this type of work, and they felt it was more important to be associated with things like maybe working in a law office or something that seemed high status. And so what happened is I couldn't, by any stretch of the imagination, grow this business by hiring people from those backgrounds. So what I did is I started going into the inner city of Detroit and in various blue collar neighborhoods in Detroit. And it wasn't difficult at all to find people to do the work. And not only that, the people I was hiring appreciated the work, meaning they were actually happy to do the work and wanted to do it the next day. And we're like, thank you, can I work the next day and everything? And the work they did was better, meaning they really tried hard to do the work. They were there waiting to do the work each day and excited about it. Whereas I'd have to go pick up other people to do the work, and they had no pretensions or anything that they were better than the work, and they didn't feel badly about themselves for doing the work. They were actually very excited, and they were happy because they were in a situation that, I mean, they were getting paid a lot of money, more than their peers were, and they they were just a different situation, and so and then just because the pay was high, and they really saw everything as a very good opportunity. And the reason is because people around them were doing similar types of jobs, but this job paid better than most of their jobs, and they just felt good about what they're doing. And I realized that I was better off hiring, and I don't like saying the working class, but people that are interested in working as outside and so forth, as opposed to wanting to be inside. And these people felt their peers thought they had a great job, and unlike the peers of the people I was working. So one person, the people that I knew, their peers didn't make them feel good about the work, and then the people I hired, their peers did. So that may seem obvious to you, but there's actually a very important lesson to that, and I'll get to that in a moment, because this has a lot to do with why people succeed in certain environments and not others. And it's a very basic point, which I'm sure you can pick up on without too much trouble. I mean, obviously, people from nice suburbs and things are going to like different types of jobs, but it's a very important lesson. It's because how others see us and the work that we do really determines how we see ourselves and kind of our success barometer. And most of us, feel judged and want to be seen in a positive light by other people that we know. And our self-worth is influenced by how others see us. So meaning we're around people, and depending on our environment, we want them to see us a certain way. And we want to be thought of highly by our peers, and I don't know if love's the right word, but a sense of being seen in a positive light by our peers is very, very important. And most of us will base our self-worth on how others see us. I mean, think about my father. Like, just why would someone care? I mean, he had a successful career, but not as successful as he felt he would. And just the peers you're around will have a major effect. The people in my business, it wasn't the sort of job that made certain people feel good, so they were unhappy with it and didn't make them feel good, and because it didn't appear high status. But in another background of people, it did make them feel good and did seem high status. So, it's interesting, and I'll bring up a few points now. We'll start talking a little bit about the practice of law. But, my first position was at this firm, Quinn Emanuel. And at the time, it was a very small firm. I mean, I don't know what it was, like 40 attorneys or something, or 35 attorneys. And they had people that were there that had been at Cravath. A lot of the partners were all from that firm. A lot of them, I mean, like 10 or something at that point. And and there were a couple of people from the University of Iowa, and which for one of the top firms in the world is a little unusual, right? The University of Iowa, and Cravath still hires people from that firm, from that school all the time, and and a lot of these people are from backgrounds that where they're, they're not from didn't grow up in like Park Avenue and that sort of thing, or go to I don't know, Phillips Exeter, Andover, or something for school. And from like Cravath could employ people from places like Harvard, Yale, and all these types of schools all day. I mean, they could get all the people that they wanted at the top of their class. And but the fact that they were hiring people from that school was very, very interesting to me. When I look at a lot of these people and I see their backgrounds, and they come through BCG occasionally after they've been, at those firms or another firm. But they can do very, very well. And I think there's a logic to that, because a lot of these people believe that getting a position with Cravath is just such a great thing, and it makes them look good to their peers and others, and they feel just like blessed and can't believe this opportunity, and they're willing to work hard. And it's interesting too, because I talk to attorneys all day in big firms in New York, and are ones that have been at big firms and have lost their jobs, and they have all these expectations and demands and things, even when they're unemployed, and they're more likely to not appreciate the firms. They may not appreciate any firm and think they're being exploited, and just not appreciate the opportunity. And it's just, and they're around peers. You go to like Columbia or NYU or something, you're around peers that are all working at big firms and competitive, and some of them are talking negatively, and a lot of them are. And so, the people you're around are often going to, appreciate what they're given according to different value systems. And when you think something about like, I bring this up a lot, but if someone goes to Yale Law School, the values of the people that go to that school are more about things like being a law professor, or going into public service, or being a politician, or working for a nonprofit. Those are the values that school promotes, and that group promotes. So the group of people that go to that school, that's what's important to them. It's, certainly they go to work in law firms, but this particular aspect of their careers and is where they think, and that's what their group's talking about, and it works. A lot of them become very successful politicians. Look at Bill Clinton and and his wife. Hillary Clinton. It's just, and so their peers believe that these are the best jobs to have, and so and their professors teach them that, and that's where they go. Whereas if you go to NYU or Columbia or Michigan or something, then then it's a law firm. And if it's Harvard, it's often a law firm and then the best law firm. So these groups, shape the way you think about things and the way you think about your career. And so, the attorneys from Yale may not be happy in a law firm because their peer groups have other ambitions and other things that are cool. So, when we're around other people, we want to have status in their eyes. And this is just how it works with groups you associated. I mean, you want, yeah, the status and the values that you have, you want to have the same as your friends. The friends you're around can impact that. Your peers, your current peers, meaning the people you're working with, your classmates, your former classmates, or current if you're in school, the professors you work with. I mean, all these people are shaping the person that you become and the level you rise to or fall to. It's what it is. And all this stuff is, I'm not talking here about doing well in your civil procedure class. I'm talking about something far more important, these people that you're around. And these people will determine for you what you think success looks like. And then the more success looks like one thing and happiness looks like one thing from that group. When a group's thinking like that, you're going to start thinking like that as well. They're going to have an idea of what success looks like, and so you're going to want to do the same things with your career. You're going to want to look successful the way they do, and you're going to figure out how to do it. And then if you don't, you're not going to feel good about yourself. Like this example that I gave of my father, who was very successful but didn't feel as successful as his peers, and so your upbringing, meaning what your parents think is important, the friends that you have, meaning the people that you're friends with, your surroundings, meaning your schools and your neighborhood and other background things are going to have a lot to do with how you feel successful. And there's a lot of things that make people successful and do well. But one thing that makes you successful or unsuccessful often is your parents. And it's a shame to say, but sometimes parents, will give or withhold approval based on whether or not, you're doing what they think is important. Or sometimes they'll just give you approval no matter what. And sometimes, if this approval doesn't come, then often the child, wants to keep approving or improving and clips what the parent did. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen there. It's another thing that's kind of interesting. I'm just bringing this up as an aside is I keep running across these attorneys, and when I talk to attorneys, I always interview them. And I was interviewing an attorney yesterday, and she said she became this business litigator because her parents got ripped off and lost all their money in some deal. And I've talked to other attorneys that become attorneys because there are things that happen to their parents. It's just kind of interesting, I think, that people make these kind of career choices based on things that may have happened to them or their parents in the past. It's just interesting. So, as people, you don't really understand your values unless they're reflected by other people. So most people get values from their parents, and the parents will give them approval or disapproval and set expectations. And then, your identities are often, your identity is often formed by the way others see us and their judgment of us. And when people approve of us, they, we may develop certain feelings of our worth. And if they don't, we may believe that we don't have worth. And different environments are going to reflect those values to us. I mean, depending on the environment you're in, you're going to have a different expectation and a different thing to feel happy about than not. And so if your internal value system says you need to be a certain type of person to be successful, and you're not that person, you're often going to feel badly about yourself and go through life feeling badly about yourself, which is crazy. But this is what people do. I mean, it tears them up inside, and they just stew on this forever. Some people, the idea of success is just having a happy family, and that they can love, and maybe who loves them, or for a lot of people, especially attorneys, it means a certain level of economic achievement or social achievement. It could be the idea of working with certain people, getting in, or partners, or working at a firm, or having a title. Like, people will often really want to have like a partner title. It'll be very important to them, or they'll just want to be at a certain firm. I've seen people so driven to be at a certain firm that they'll just take any position there. They'll work as a contract attorney if they have to get in that firm. I mean, it's just the people have different values, and so people get upset when we don't measure up to this value system which we get from others, and this is often determined by the people around us who we're comparing ourselves against all the time. And if we don't believe that we aren't accomplishing what our peers are and aren't hitting those same marks that they are, we're often very depressed and disappointed. I mean, I remember just getting another aside. I went to this high school reunion. I went to this competitive prep school, and when I was there, like, everyone's just walking up to each other, telling them how amazing they are, and just trying to get approval, and comparing themselves to other people. And it's just interesting. I mean, these environments, kind of what they do to people. And so when you compare, socially to yourself and to others, and your value systems and happiness, it has a lot to do. And so this school I was telling you about earlier, my best friend there, I guess when I was in 10th grade, but then I was good friends with him, through the rest of high school. He died of just very serious alcoholism in his 40s. His heart stopped, and he was living in a just kind of not a good area of Florida, like on a swamp or something, and when he died. And his father was a very successful builder in Michigan. Also, his grandfather was, and his older brother was very, very smart, and went to the University of Michigan, which was always a big deal to go there if you're from Michigan. I mean, it's a hard school to get into, and then this friend of mine had gone to this private school with me, and at that school, like, I mean, it was a good school. I mean, people, probably, I mean, a lot of people went to Ivy League schools, and that sort of thing, or did very well in athletics, and became professional athletes and things. So there was a lot of talented people there, but my particular friend surrounded himself with with the people that he was surrounded with there, made him not confident, not feeling like he didn't measure up, and so what he did is, because he wasn't measuring up, he started smoking a lot of pot, drinking all the time, not after school, and basically feeling sorry for himself. And then I kind of drifted apart from him after my sophomore year, because it just got to be bad. But when he applied to colleges, he wanted to go to Michigan State. They have a building, I don't know, contractors, some sort of degree there, and his family had a doubt of professorship, and for whatever reason, they didn't flag his application. He might have gotten in that way, and then he got rejected, and very upset by that, and ended up going to what I think is a good school, but at the same time went to Boulder, and then he got in there without any special treatment, and then he got there and basically flunked out within his first year, and then this downward spiral just continued because he kept getting all this negative feedback and feeling poorly about himself from parents, peers, and family, and then around him, all of his high school friends were doing things and going to medical school and things, and he was just kind of there. And so, I think personally with him, had he been in an environment where he wasn't, these expectations weren't so high, maybe not going to this kind of school, maybe not having parents that had so many demands on him, maybe because he was smart. I mean, he was a smart guy. I remember he was able to take like, I don't know, AP chemistry and do very well on that. Just naturally, he understood. He would have done well probably if he'd been around in an environment that wasn't set too high for him. And so he believed because of his parents and his peers and everyone that he had to be better than others and succeed at a certain level to merit attention. And because of what the environment, and he took it so seriously. He got feedback from his parents, he got feedback from his brother, and feedback from schools and everything. He just couldn't take it, and I think that drove him to drink and drugs and things. And had he not been around an environment like that was more suited to him, he might have been much happier. He just, I don't know. But it's interesting too, like, and this is just another example of someone else that had very serious problems brought on by expectations that they couldn't meet. Not, years ago. I mean, I dated this woman that was very pretty and smart and motivated, and I mean, did very, very well financially, and all these characteristics that made her very, very special. And I loved her. I mean, I'll admit that I loved her. But she also had a pretty serious alcohol problem, and I would, she would drink a lot every night, and on the weekend sometimes she'd drink all day, and that night she would have this, she would call it happy hour, and she would I would, I would hear her pouring wine into a glass, and then I would hear her opening bottles of wine, and so she'd have a couple bottles sometimes while talking to me on the phone, and then she wasn't really listening to what I was saying. She was just kind of talking, and I didn't enjoy this, and would try to get off the phone, and didn't enjoy talking to her at night, and the last thing in the world I ever wanted to do was go over there like during the week and hang out, because that wasn't too much fun for me either. And so this woman was depressed and unhappy. She was successful. She had a lot of money, and she owned a very nice house and nice car, and had pretty much everything she needed. And she had a child, and she was a very good mother. And but she also had this alcohol problem, and like my other friend. And what's interesting about her is she was from this Mormon family. So she's like a real Utah Mormon family. She'd gone to Brigham Young, and she'd done very, very well there. And when she was there, she studied theology. And so you go into her house, and there were all these bookshelves with all sorts of religious text, and you took a look at them, and they were all underlined, and there were notes in them, and post-it notes on different pages that she thought were important. And her family expected her, and she had, when she went to Los Angeles, they expected her to go to church each week and to be part of the church, and that's what all her brothers and sisters did. But she had this child out of wedlock, and wasn't married, and so that wasn't good for her parents. That they didn't like that, and that wasn't good for the people that she was in church with, and she felt that religion was sexist. I don't want to compliment it because I don't know, but she suddenly was in this position where she was feeling very disapproved by by her family and by the people in her church. And so even though she'd never drank when she was obviously at BYU and growing up, she started drinking. And then she left this church and felt very badly about herself and just was very negative towards the world. And because she felt almost like cast out of this group and like she wasn't living up to what was expected of her by her family and by her peers. And so, what's kind of nice, I'll just say this about this particular church is even after she left, they kept looking out for her. I mean, they would stop by, and sometimes when I was over, there were people stopping by to see how she was doing, and they were just nice and non-judgmental, and they really were taking an interest in her welfare. She used to teach Sunday school and some other things, and they realized that she was having issues, but every time they came over or called or texted, she would always feel badly about herself because she would realize that she was not living up to the value system and what was expected of her, at least by this particular. I'm not saying that this is what all Mormon churches do, but this particular church, I think, was making her feel that way. And so, after, at some point, I realized that these alcohol issues were something that I couldn't live with, and so I just kind of, lightly just kind of let everything fizzle out. And then after that, the last time I actually finally spoke to her, she had, it was just kind of amazing. Like uh, and I kind of implied to her that this was the reason why I didn't want to keep doing everything. But she ended up going back to this church, stopped drinking, started training for a marathon and all this stuff, and became much happier. And her family, this value system kind of came back. And so as long as she wasn't living up to what was expected of her by everyone around her, at least the people that were important to her, the more unhappy she was. And she was out of kilter with this value system of what was expected of her. And because of that, she couldn't be happy. Just as people that come out of certain law schools expect that they need to be in touch with the value system of the people around them, or have certain parents that have certain values for them and they're out of touch. This is stuff that people struggle with. I mean, this is a big deal. Like, this is something that you may struggle with. Like, you may think I'm not good enough because all my peers went to these great law firms. I didn't get an offer. That's a question I hear that I get almost every week. Like, why didn't I get an offer? Like, why couldn't I get a job at a big firm? What am I doing wrong? Like, and the only reason you feel that way is because of the people that you're around. If you went to some, local law school, and you wouldn't feel that way, but people do when they're out of certain backgrounds. And I just remember my stepbrother, who was the son of the stepmom, who wasn't very nice to me, and going to Michigan State. He had gone in the Navy for 4 years or whatever, and after returning, went there, and then he went for 2 years there and dropped out. And he was very excited to get to Michigan State. He couldn't believe like his luck. Think it was a great thing. And he, he had a GED. He got that in high school, and then when he was about 16, he enrolled in the Navy, and he got disciplined. He got disciplined in the Navy, kind of shaped him up. It made him feel successful. He felt very grateful for his background, because a lot of the kids he was in the Navy with hadn't grown up as well as he did. And he felt very successful. And even though he was at Michigan State just for a couple of years, he got a good position in General Motors, and got it when he was fairly young. And it's over 30 years or 40, I don't know, but 30 plus years later, and he's still in the same job, and thinks I'm sure, he has a great life. So his mother had been a secretary, never graduated from high school, and he grew up in a good neighborhood, but he just felt very good about his background, and he's doing very well today because his thermostat, what made him successful in the eyes of his mother and the people he grew up with, was was just what he had, what he got. He felt very, very good, happy. So, and my other friend that kind of grew up in this very competitive atmosphere with very, very competitive parents and so forth, isn't alive. I mean, one was able to feel good about themselves because of what they did in their life, and the other, and be very grateful for a job at General Motors, and excited about uh, having been in the Navy and gotten into Michigan State. And my other friend's dead, and so one, was kind of always feeling badly, like they're not measuring up, and the other was very, very happy and felt like they were measuring up. And so just think about that, how much being in the wrong atmosphere and having the wrong expectations for you can eat you up. Some people, it eats them up their whole lives. I mean, I've seen their whole careers. I've seen, sometimes if I call an attorney and I say I have an opening at this AmLaw 100 law firm, and the attorney's been at a mid-sized firm for 20 years, they often just jump on it with no idea if it's going to make them happy or not. I mean, people are always, comparing themselves to others. And it's like that in the legal profession. I mean, attorneys from big law firms are always thinking they're better than attorneys in small law firms. And small law firms are always trying to prove that they're just as good as a big law firm. I mean, it's just this whole thing goes on and on and on. And it's just people are always often trying to be something, or, they're defining themselves based on what they think others think. And, so who you compare yourself to, and their value system is often going to determine what happens to you and how happy you are. And your own value system and beliefs are going to determine whether you measure up and how hard you're trying and whether or not you're going to be happy, and what you base your happiness on and a level of achievement. I mean, think about the example I gave of my father, not happy, just feeling like a failure because not as successful as people he knew. I mean, it's crazy. But this is what happens to people. And so I'm talking a little bit about the influence of your socio-economic background, also on personal achievement. So, this is something that I kind of wanted to, bring up too. I mean, is that I began to notice something about, that I'd not seen as much for the people that I'd hired from, the upper to middle class environments. And most of them, this is the, that I hired in the asphalt business, is the people that I'd hired from my environment just seemed unhappy. They were not excited. They acted like they were put out, by the work. But the people that I hired from Detroit, and at the time, I mean, I was hiring. It wasn't based on. There were people of all different races and stuff. It wasn't based on one thing. And the people that I was hiring from Detroit and from these kind of working class backgrounds were happy while they worked. They would laugh. They didn't think, they were happy to do anything that was asked, and they were happier, much happier than the people I met that weren't from those sort of backgrounds. So what I think is that they felt good about the pay they were getting. They and they they were happy, and they were pleased to have the work, and they liked the fact that they got to drive, and most of this work took place in nice neighborhoods, and they liked seeing the water and getting out of where they were. They just liked it better. And so, I've seen people, I see it a lot. I mean, people that drive themselves to just almost crazy when they can't meet the expectations of the people around them. I've seen people die. And I once hired, this is another interesting story. I hired a guy that had grown up in an Orthodox Jewish family in Brooklyn, New York. I think he actually lived in an environment where everyone was like that. And he was no longer religious in terms of, he was religious. I mean, he went to, services and things, but he certainly didn't want to commit to the level that his parents in the community did. And then when he was 19, he left home. His parents were just very hurt by this. I guess they expected him to, grow a beard and marry in the religion, dress a certain way, get educated a certain way. But he didn't want to do that, and he felt that if his if he stayed around his parents, he would always be, and stayed in even New York, he would always be reminded that he wasn't that, and would feel poorly about himself. And this is someone else that went a little off the rails, and I liked him a great deal, but he was very young when he went to a top 10 law school that he graduated from at the age of 19. Since he was so young, he couldn't get legal positions. I mean, firms were nervous about hiring someone so young. And he didn't have interview skills. And so he, not only had he left his family, but he left to go to, I mean, he's a brilliant guy, but he left to go to into a profession that wasn't welcoming him. Then he got very upset and ended up resigning from the bar, meaning he just said he didn't want to be a part of the bar anymore. And then he spent the next several years just not doing much. He worked for me and saved all this money, and then and then he spent several years, the last I heard, traveling around Asia. So, I think that, he had a very hard time. He wasn't living up to the values of his family. And he also wasn't living up to the values of being an attorney. So here he was, just out of options, very, very sad. And the only reason I know about this super orthodox background and so forth is because his family had found out that he had worked for our company somehow, and they flew out from New York to talk to him, and came into our office, the mother, the father, the grandmother, and then when they found out he wasn't there, they told us about what had happened to him. So, anybody that wants to, if you want to be successful, you can. So anybody can. It doesn't, it doesn't matter what your education is. It doesn't. None of this stuff matters. It's all really within your control. The world is a meritocracy, and you're the only person responsible for your achievement. I mean, you can be anyone you choose to be, and this is a lot of this is the what the self-help industry says. I mean, the self-help industry basically tells you to be a certain, you can be anything as long as you change your mind, and people change their mind by getting excited, by and you're not held back in the United States by anybody can become who they want to. This is why people come here from other countries, and all of this is in your reach if you put your mind to it. So a lot of times people need to get motivated. They need to go to self-help type seminars or whatever it is to do well. They need to take control of their psychology, because the environment you're in can actually push you down. So you need to step up. And example would be in business. I mean, some people want to make their mark in business, and others try to do it in entertainment, and others use education, and law schools use your grades and LSAT scores, and so it's supposed to be, it's supposed to be sort of a meritocracy, and then people and societies in this society tries to make sure the playing field's the playing field is equal. So things such as equal rights and so forth are brought up to make everything as fair as possible. And then sometimes there's historical reasons to help certain people to level the playing field. And so certain groups will be admitted without, admitted without the same measuring sticks, whether it's schools, employers, and others. Like it's very common for Ivy League schools, for example, they always want to take a couple people from South Dakota and to get geographic diversity. Even the states, North Dakota, where there's not a lot of people, things like that, so they can uh, level the playing field for people that might not normally have the opportunity to go places like that. And there's all sorts of things now. The SAT is optional. A lot of schools, because people felt that was unfair, and everyone kind of wants equal access to wealth and prestige, and so the success based on merit is stuff that people want. But the problem with this kind of meritocracy, I think, is that when you realize that a lot's possible and you look at what other people are achieving in their careers, you may feel very left out when you're unable to achieve those things. And so, whatever level of education you have, you often, left feeling like my father, where, you're given certain advantages and you didn't reach your potential. And sometimes people believe that success is impossible without different advantages. And so, you may think there's something wrong with the society. You may think there's something wrong with the things that have happened to you in different jobs. I mean, people have all sorts of excuses for why things didn't work out or why they were having problems. I mean, think about the people that you know. I mean, everyone will point to others. They'll point to mistakes. They'll just point to all these reasons. That things didn't work out. So there's just sometimes people they'll attack big law firms and say, I would never want to work there, or they'll attack different types of things that they've tried to do. And so this whole conflict is really based on, for people, not feeling where they should be, and they blame others. And I'm sure that when things have happened to you, you may have blamed others. Partners in law firms will blame the billing rates. They'll blame the attorneys that they work with. They'll blame the clients. They'll blame, everyone will put blame a lot of times on others. And so, the point is that that I want to make too, that you just need to understand is that that you're, and it's motivational thing, but I want you just to make sure you understand it, is that you're never going to succeed unless you're able to take responsibility for your own success. You cannot blame anything that happens on other people. It's not ultimately you are accountable and you are responsible for whether or not you succeed. You can't blame others. You can't blame your environment. You can't blame your professors. You can't blame other attorneys. You have to be responsible for it. And you have to basically be able to take your mind and make your mind focused on being successful and do whatever you can to protect your mind. I read a story about Steve Bing recently, not too long ago, actually, it was several years ago, but he's this guy that I used to read about and how cool he was, and magazines would write articles about how cool he was, and newspapers would, but he jumped off a high-rise luxury apartment he was living in at the age of 55 because he was so depressed. And he'd gone to Harvard Westlake, which is one of the top prep schools in the country. I mean, it's always ranked in the top 10. And then he'd gone to Stanford and then dropped out to be a film producer. And then when he was 18 years old, he inherited $600 million, which today would probably be, well over $1.5 billion. And then he dated Elizabeth Hurley, and he was friends with Clintons, and all these big social circles, gave money to all these important charities, but, had drug problems and alcohol problems. He had 2 children, and he never met them. And he just had all this stuff, but wasn't happy. And so why would someone like that be unhappy? what is it that makes someone so unhappy, and why are they? And so, I don't know, but a lot of times, being loved by someone requires their belief that in order for them to be loved, they believe that they need to be a certain kind of person. And that can make people unhappy, because no matter what the environment you are, if you believe you should be a different person on the outside than you believe they're on the inside, then that can hurt you. Now, I'm going to talk about a story right now that I'm a little uncomfortable with, just because it's kind of grouping people into groups based on their backgrounds of I don't know, a race, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's not negative. But I had a girl working for me, and her husband was a lawyer, and he had a very high paying job at a law firm, and left it. And meaning he was doing very, very well at this firm, and he left it to become to start his own firm with no clients or anything. And she was married to him. She was out of just a typical kind of middle class background, and he was Persian. She wasn't, and she said that he said that no Persian guy would ever work for someone else more than a few years. That's what she said. And then and there's a lot of families in LA. It's a very big group of people. I mean, I don't know, but it's probably more here than anywhere else but Iran. And a lot of them came over in the 1970s and 80s, and they settled in Beverly Hills and all these different suburbs around LA. And they also have a reputation for being very good in business, very good in real estate, and so it's a tight community, and they have certain expectations. I don't want to say that in a negative way, but I mean positive expectations about business and what other people are doing. And then I thought about it, and I remember when I was in a law firm, there were at two of the law firms, there were three different guys whose parents were from Iran, and they'd all not stayed practicing law more than a few years, and then they also went into real estate, which is very common. So for those people that I met. So, I realized, and then one year I hired this woman that had just graduated from UCLA to work at I used to run a small law firm to represent our companies. And I hired her, and then she left after 6 months and started her own law firm. So, and then I talked to another attorney not too long ago, a young Persian lawyer, and he said, no one Persian wants to work for someone together forever. So, I don't know if this is true. I mean, I'm just encountering these people around Los Angeles, and I'm certainly not trying to make stereotypes about a group that are negative, or in this case, I do believe that they're positive, that they are very interested in business. But it's just it's interesting. I mean, I think that different groups of people, whether it's if you're from an Orthodox Jewish family, or you're from a devout Mormon family, or you're from Yale Law School, or you're from a working class family, work interested in making more money, or you're from whatever you're from, people from all these groups have all these expectations, and these expectations will color how you approach the world and what level you rise to, and then how you feel about your level of success and what you need to be successful. And so, who is uniquely suited to be an attorney in a large or small law firm? I mean, what if everyone for example, what if everyone in my family talked about how awful being a law firm attorney was for their whole careers? I mean, what if they just said how terrible it was? And or what if the background I was in, my parents pushed me to wanted me to be an entertainer. I mean, you take a lot of these famous athletes, like you take Tiger Woods, and his dad made him want to be a golfer from a very, very young age. I mean, and practice with them all the time. There's Serena Williams, an athlete. I mean, a lot of these people come out of backgrounds where their families implore them, I mean, and push them to do certain things. And it could be entertainment, it could be all these different things. And so, Tiger Woods, and, and then lots of examples of parents who want their children to be actors, athletes, lawyers, doctors, and more. I mean, I was just in the Wall Street Journal magazine this weekend. There was a story about Kaya Gerber, like a whole spread about her. And her mom is Cindy Crawford, and her dad is Randy Gerber, and now she's a very young age and is a model. I mean, she's had and a very well-known model. And so, those are examples. And how many people does that happen to? I mean, so you observe what your parents are doing, you learn about it, it can help you. And so, it just, a lot of this happens to people. And so, my dad had gone to law school and flunked out, always felt badly about it. So I went to law school, didn't flunked out, and became a lawyer. And so, like other people, maybe I wanted to fix some issues in my family history. So this is the point now that I was kind of waiting to make to you, and that I talked about. A few more slides of this, but I talked about at the beginning, where I talked about the man that had traveled around and spent all this money to meet the most important spiritual leaders and things, and what he picked up, and he believed that really what happens is your happiness is dependent upon not just your own outlook, but of what the people around you think. So people go to good schools so they can be around people. They don't go around good schools because they want to learn a new slant on tort law or something. I mean, the people around you are going to form your feelings about what does success mean? What is your parents? What is your community will form your feelings about what these things mean. Your friends will, your peer group at work, your all of these things, where you were raised, and I've heard I heard someone that grew up. I don't know where I heard this, but he grew up in a poor neighborhood. So the only options you had to be a professional athlete, a musician, or a drug dealer, and those were the options that where he saw people being successful, and that was his value system. And if he'd grown up in a prosperous neighborhood where everyone was trying to be a doctor, he would have had different values. And so a lot of times people go to law firms, and this is not a nice thing to say, but it's true. They just don't have the values to succeed there. So a lot of people, it doesn't matter what type of law firm you go into. People go into law firms. This may be you. If you didn't grow up in a family of lawyers, if you don't have peers that have become lawyers, if you don't know about the legal profession, you may not understand the value system there and what's required. And you're not going to succeed because you don't know, it's not programmed into you what you need to succeed. Your value system is just maybe not supporting it. Maybe your parents expect you to be doing something else. Maybe, who knows? But if your value system doesn't support it, you're never going to do well. And a lot of times, what happens to you is really an alignment with what other people think you should be, and that can hurt you. So if you do surround yourself by a certain type of person, you're going to continually be reminded that you should be a different person than you are, and this may not appeal to you, and you're constantly reminded of this. I mean, there's so much negativity in a lot of these law firms, especially the large ones, where everyone thinks they should be going in-house, or everyone thinks they, all these things, and they're plotting their escape. And, so you need a lot of times to escape this, and and you have to be able to overcome these traumas. And I remember growing up, and the reason I'm telling you about my friend that was died of alcoholism is I had a lot of friends like that. So, for example, I grew up in a family where there was divorces and substance abuse and step families, and never, of course, felt the same as kids that grew up in environments where that wasn't the case, where they had good families and where they, so they could, where they did nice things with their families and and so I didn't have that. So I didn't associate with those types of kids. I associated with kids that were also going through these issues, and which because that was if I had associated with different types of people, I probably wouldn't have felt as good about myself. And so but I still was in environments where we're encouraging those sorts of issues. So I did the same thing when I got into college. The fraternity I joined is the same one that was in Animal House. I mean, it wasn't at Dartmouth, it was at my school. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, the kids were wild, and I mean, very wild. And so, it took me a long time before I was able to kind of get out of that and start associating with people with higher standards, and that gave me the motivation to do better and to rise and to understand this profession. And it's one reason I teach this stuff, because I think a lot of people come out of environments where they're not necessarily learning these things, like I'm telling you, and where they're being shaped by past ideas and past things. I mean, I've noticed a lot of people that come out of certain environments where they never have associated with other people that are trying to be successful, and then they continue that through schools and stuff that never end up succeeding. It's very tough, and just because you really don't need always to live by the value of others. I mean, you can get yourself motivated independently. You can read self-help books or listen to podcasts or watch YouTube videos and things, and get very excited and overcome and break out of whatever environment may be keeping you back. And but the biggest thing is you need to do whatever you can to surround yourself with people in the right values. So I belong to organizations or groups that where I'm able to surround myself with people that are very successful, and much more successful than I am, actually, which is a good thing. Because it helps me kind of raise my expectations. And there's an example that Anthony Robbins talks about or talked about once. I heard him talk about it. And he was younger and wasn't financially successful yet when he was doing well. And someone invited him to be a part of a group of very important men who were, big time movie producers and big time bankers and things. And they flew around the world on private jets to meetings to discuss ideas, and his membership group, and then he had to pay to join this group something like $250,000 just for 1 year. And I remember when he got this call to join it, or that he said something along the lines of, "This is way too expensive. And I don't know why I would possibly pay this much money." And keep in mind that Anthony Robbins grew up in not a wealthy household in Azusa, California, and had someone that, again, picked themselves up from nothing and made themselves into something, which is very important. So meaning, regardless of the environment, you can figure out how to do this. And he's an example of it. And it's one reason that he is inspiring as a human being. But this person said to him, that, regardless of what you know about self-improvement, nothing is going to change you for the better like the people you spend your time associating with. And, the values and ideas you pick up from them are worth more than it will cost you to spend time with them. It's very, very interesting if you think about that. So the people that you're around are going to help shape your values. And Robbins apparently is still part of this group. This was decades ago, and said it's the best investment he's ever made and changed his life more than anything he's ever learned from reading books, just being around these people. And so these values that people have and that you pick up are going to change you, and they change you more than anything. And so each one of our existence is, am I worthy of love for myself and others? And if you don't feel worthy of that sort of love, you may have made a mistake of allowing others to do a number on you and rid of mind and value systems. And you need to do what you can to break out of that. And, Robbins is interesting because he was able to break out of it using all these tools he talks about in his books and get motivated. But then not only that, but then he was able to push himself into different, peer groups and things that helped him. So, you really need to do that. And, you need to kind of take care of yourself in the world. So, the only way that you can really be successful is if you choose to be the person you want to be. You have a value system that supports you, meaning if you want to be an attorney in a law firm, then you find people that are doing that and you get around them and you learn what they're doing. And then, the values you choose are going to really end up determining what happens to your success. All right, so give me just a second and I will pull up questions. And just remember that, you can ask as many questions about anything to do with your career as you like. And I am more than happy to answer them and we can stay as long as there are questions. And typically, if you have a question, it's a good idea to, make sure I got this correct. If you do have questions, it's always a good idea to ask them. I'm not going to use your name or anything along those lines. If you are logged into Zoom and it shows your name, I won't use your name. And then the final thing is just that sometimes if you have a question, you don't think it's a good question, it's the kind of question that other people will actually benefit from the answers to. So this is often really just kind of the most interesting part of these webinars is taking questions. Let me go with the first question. Okay, so so this is an interesting question. So the person says, if you are a counsel at Skadden and you lateral to a boutique firm, is this a downgrade? One that could impede in the future going back to big law. So that's interesting. I was actually at a meeting last night where someone was talking about Skadden counsels. I don't think that person is on this webinar. I'm sure they're not, but this is interesting. So, there are some firms like Skadden is one of them where making counsel is honestly just as impressive as making a partner at a lot of other am law type law firms. So it can be it actually is a pretty big deal to make counsel at Skadden. The only problem being counsel at Skadden is most counsel are never going to be able to be partners at Skadden, so that's somewhat limiting. So if you lateral to a boutique firm, the idea of that, and this is something I've seen a lot of people do, is you can, develop your own business, your own book of business. You can, that's one advantage. You can, take control over your career. So if that's what you can do, and then of course you will be a partner probably at a boutique firm. So that's a good thing. So you'll be a partner at a boutique firm, and then you'll also have the the background of having been counsel at Skadden. And again, being counsel at Skadden is a big deal. I mean, it's just as hard to do as become a partner, at least an income partner, and it's probably actually harder to become counsel at Skadden would be to become an income partner at most Am Law 100 law firms. I mean, it's very, very difficult. The problem, though, of being counsel at Skadden or any great firm is that you're counsel. So you are dependent on the firm for your work. You're dependent on the firm for, you're not is in control of of your career is might be a good idea. So that means that because you're not in control over your career, you're dependent on them for giving you work. You have to do everything that's asked of you. You don't have your own clients. You may not have strategy with those clients, and there's just a lot of things that are kind of drawbacks about that. So, but yes, and so having your own clients at a boutique firm gives you more control over your career. You can take those clients and go somewhere else. I mean, there's just a lot of advantages to being a partner as opposed to counsel. But at the same time, counsel at Skadden makes a very, very good living. And because they make such a good living, they can, you can make as much as a partner in a lot of major law firms as counsel. So you can make a good living. You may want that and prefer that. You may not want to generate business. And so that's something to think about. So the problem with moving, if you're in a position like that, is that you will have a very, very difficult time, if not impossible time, moving back. So if you are at a firm like that, it's very rare that they're going to take you back if you leave. So that becoming counsel is sort of a reward for being there in the first place. So yeah, it'll be very, very difficult to move. Now, what does happen is if you move to a boutique firm from a firm like that and you generate a good sized book of business, then you can take in a larger firm and a larger firm. Could you get back to a firm like Skadden as a partner? Possibly, but it would be very, very difficult to do that. So I mean, this is a very good question, and I'm really happy to. This is something I know a lot about, and I'm glad that someone asked that question, because it's a very good point for that particular type of job at that particular firm or firms of that caliber, just to understand how difficult, prestigious it is to become counsel, but then the option of going from there to a boutique. And this is, by the way, I mean, this particular fact pattern is something that I have seen many, many times of people that are counsel at Skadden in particular, thinking about that move to a boutique firm. And generally, I think when they do make that move, they don't regret it if they're able to build a book of business. But the reason you want to develop a book of business is it gives you control. So when you have a book of business, your clients, a law firm, you are hiring a law firm excuse me, you're hiring a law firm to basically to give you offices, paralegals, legal associates, and all that sort of thing. So that's what happens when you have your own book of business. With no book of business, a lot. So this is kind of the big difference. Do you want to, and you lose control. So, so what do you want to have? Do you want to have control, or do you want to not have control? So if you have your own book of business, you have control, and you hire the law firm. And if you don't like the law firm, you go to another law firm. If you don't have a book of business, the law firm's hiring you. And if they run out of work or don't like you anymore, you lose control. So those are all very important things to kind of think about as you're looking at opportunities. Okay, so this next question. In my experience, I've noticed colleagues from privileged backgrounds seem to have a smoother path in their legal careers. How can attorneys from less advantaged backgrounds overcome the gap and define success on our own terms in the legal profession? Okay, so yes, so people from more privileged backgrounds, it's not that that makes them more successful. It's basically that they understand their audience a little better, the people that they're working for, So So I'll answer this question in what I think are one of the most simplistic ways or one of the most simplistic ways I can. So, so on one level, they have shared interests, shared experience, shared, shared values, maybe, I don't know. And then those sorts of things. So when people get together, people recognize people from recognize other people from similar backgrounds. That's all. So, and then they're able to, and those people are able to bond. That's all. So, so if people, recognize others from similar backgrounds, then that's helpful, and they can bond with other people, and so, that's unfortunate. That has a lot to do with, people becoming successful or non-successful sometimes. But at the same time, it's not. I mean, the world is a meritocracy, so people want to hire people. If you're from a less privileged background, people respect hard work. They do. The harder you work in a firm, and they respect hard work. They expect dedication. They respect not taking anything for granted, and they respect those things. So if you are doing those things properly, then you can get ahead. I mean, every bank and firm and group is with people that are from not as prestigious from backgrounds that don't even come close to matching the backgrounds of the people that they're working for and so forth. I mean, so that doesn't necessarily matter. But let me tell you what I think is the most important differential that I see of that what makes people successful versus non-successful when they get into when they come out of different environments. So you kind of have two mentalities. So the two mentalities are, and this is what I notice, the two mentalities. One is that certain people believe their employees and need to and should get the highest pay, for for the hours and so forth. So this is a very common thing that people do, and these sorts of people. I'm not trying to be rude here, but this tends to be people from you know blue collar. I mean, from less privileged backgrounds, I guess. And so they look at being an attorney or going to law school in a method that they think this is going to get me ahead in society and make me a certain amount of money and that sort of thing. They look at it that way, and they are not. They think I've got this job paying all this money. This is great. I've made it, and I'm going to try to keep making as much money as I can. That's one way people think. Others, I don't know, I still capitalize politics. Others understand the game, long-term commitment, work ethic, all that sort of thing. And these sorts of people tend to come out of, and again, I'm not trying to be rude here, but they tend to come out of these privileged environments. So and no, and oftentimes they're they'll stuff. And geez, there we go. Environments. And so they are around, you know, they watch what others are, they watch what people from those environments are doing, and they have, you know, watch what others are doing. And their parents, you know, friends, peers, and so forth, show them, you know, impress upon them what is necessary. So that's kind of the idea. So if you come out of a privileged environment, like the most common is, you know, your parents were attorneys and you go to law school. I mean, you know that you're going to need to work hard. You know that you're going to need to commit. You know you're going to need to maybe be part of bar associations and other things. And so that's what happens. And so then you do all those things. Whereas if you come out of a less privileged environment, you're not going to understand that it's not just, you know, you're not just getting paid for the work you're doing. There's all these other expectations that come with it, and you may not be educated about that from your friends and the people that you're and your peers that you're around, and your parents. And so that's often where the disconnect happens. Now, I'm not saying that that happens to everyone, because it doesn't. Most people, I mean, figure that out, but this is one of the reasons many times that people from more privileged environments do better, and they also have people they can talk to, and those people will give them advice about how to approach these problems and things. Whereas people from less privileged environments, they'll talk to their parents, and their parents will be amazed at how much money they're making. I mean, it's just these are just different sets of expectations and so forth that happen based on what is happening. These are great questions. And you, Tay, by the way, these are very good. So thank you for everyone who is asking these questions. Okay, so the next question is, during my career, I've noticed that perceptions of my work vary widely among colleagues, clients, and supervisors. How can I ensure that these perceptions align with my own values and goals? There have been instances where others' opinions have significantly influenced my confidence and self-image as an attorney. How can I navigate these external judgments while maintaining? Okay, so the big point is that if you're if you're getting different judgments about your work from different people, that's normal. I mean, this is normal. So there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you know, if you're going to court, there's certain you know, the certain judges will like you and others won't. Some may be Republican judges, and others may be Democratic judges, and others may be socialists, and other, I mean, who knows? I mean, different judges have different opinions, and so different people have different opinions. So what I recommend that everyone do in their legal career is just you do your best to hold fast to whatever to do the best work you can, and you don't get too involved in others' opinions of you. And I had this interesting experience. I've told this before, but I was interviewing years ago when I was in law school at the Washington, D.C. office of this firm called Dickinson Wright. And it was this, which is a Detroit-based firm. And there was a huge snowstorm, and the city was basically shut down. But I showed up, drove all the way from Charlottesville, Virginia, and showed up at this firm on time for my interview, and walked in there, and there was not a single person in there except for one attorney. And he said, okay, well, I'll interview you even though you're the only person here. And he interviewed me, and he was asking me why I wanted to practice law and all this sort of things. And I was very idealistic and told him I wanted to do all these things. And he like took off his glasses and he said, are you kidding? Do you know what a law firm is like? It's like everyone's trying to get each other, and there are all these games are playing and stuff. And I said to him, and this was, I think, a good answer. I said that, you know, well, I don't really worry about what other people think. I just do the best work I can. And if I do that, then everything can work out. And very nice. And he really liked that answer. And he took me out to lunch. And then after lunch, I went to where did I go with him? Oh, I didn't go anywhere with him. I mean, I left, but then they sent me a letter basically saying they didn't have any openings. And he wrote on the letter that he hoped that I would uh, try to work in the Detroit office. And if I did, he would give me a really good recommendation. So the idea is you don't really have to worry if you're working for all these different people and you're doing the best work you can. I really wouldn't worry too much about it. I just would concentrate on that. But I mean, when I say do the best work you can, I mean, really do the best work you can. Uh, put a lot of effort into doing all you can. And if you do that, you'll often do much better than you think. Okay, someone who didn't have access to the same resources as my peers, I wondered that my upbringing might hold me back professionally. Can I overcome this mindset and focus on? Yeah, of course you can. So you just you do you go into and do what you can to do well. I mean, that's it. So you get the best job you possibly can. If you can't get a good job, you start your own practice. You keep throwing yourself into what you're doing. You learn everything you can about your practice area. You practice goal setting. You learn all these things. You watch YouTube videos about how to succeed. You read books about how to succeed. You go all in on your practice group. If you don't have or your practice area, if you don't have the confidence and you work on building your confidence, you just do whatever you can. You just go all in. It doesn't, your resources that you do have the same resources. This is crazy. Like the resource you have is your mind. So whatever you do with your mind is what's going to end up, what's going to happen to you. That's really what you need to do. And if you're able to fix your mind, you can fix anything. Okay, let's see here. This is actually, this next question is a good one, and I like this question. So, I'm happy, I thought about this when I was giving this presentation. It says, Harrison, there used to be an article about the impact of social class and background on success in law firms that this webinar harkens back to. Is there any way to obtain? Well, it's actually a very good question, because yes, that is one of the few articles that I have ever written that got me in a lot of trouble. So I wrote that, and there are articles online attacking me for writing that, saying that I'm prejudiced, that I have problems with different people from different backgrounds. And I was talking about in that article people from not privileged backgrounds that have problems sometimes. And so that particular article I had to actually take down because law firms didn't like it. And it's just something you have to be very, very careful about. People do not like it in the United States. And a lot of it is historical. When you talk about things like social class and background, and sometimes those conversations will involve people that are coming from other countries. They can involve race. They can all these sorts of things, and it's a very important topic. And I believe that it was a very important article, and it was a very popular article. But people do not want to hear that stuff, so you have to be very, very careful about that. And basically, what that said is that the article talked about how when people get to law school, or different environments, that the people that they associate with certain people, those people become successful. They tend to spend their time with them. If people are only associating with one particular type of group of people, that can hold them back because they're never integrating into the. I mean, it's a very interesting point. I'm happy that I had to take that article down. I mean, it's anytime you're a lot of people know who you are, people will look for reasons to attack you. But I thought that was a very helpful article. The big point of that article basically was what I said, but you just in the United States, because everyone is from other countries, and it's a meritocracy, or supposed to be. People do not like hearing about things like how social class and backgrounds can hold you back. So there's just a lot of hostility towards that. And it's very, very difficult to get into debates about people about that because they're very, very sensitive to that. Because when people came over from, a lot of people come over here from Europe, where people are held back based on how they were born or what groups you were born into. If you're born in Paris, for example, I mean, it's very difficult to move out of your group and to become successful. If you're born in a lot of Eastern European, I mean, so people in the United States do not want to hear about how this sort of stuff holds them back. And that makes sense because of the type of country it is. But you have to be very careful about talking about things like that. So, okay, so here's a question. The person used their name, so I'm going to take this out of there. Okay, wow, that's a good question. And I'm not going to use this person's name. I try to cut it out of there. Okay, I'm a current 3L at a local law school in the Southeast. I came from nothing. I'm the youngest in my family and the only member to complete college, let alone law school. My father died when I was 2 years old, and I was raised by a single mother. Throughout my life, I've experienced homelessness, food insecurity, family members dealing with drug abuse. I'm the only member of my friend group to achieve a moderate amount of success. I landed a post-grad attorney position at a global big law firm. Wow. And I'm very eager to start my career at such a high caliber firm. My question to you, being almost the exact opposite of what you described throughout this webinar, is how much do you think my socioeconomic background will impact my success? And I'm primarily concerned about connecting with clients, both internal and external, being in a field where majority of individuals I would be surrounded with, like you come from the socioeconomic backgrounds you're familiar with. Okay, well, that's, I mean, this is not that difficult of a question. So, I mean, for you. So obviously the people that you've interviewed with, if you've been able to get a position in a global law firm, are very impressed with you. I would say that the best thing you can do going forward is to associate with as many people as you can from those top backgrounds that you're going into, especially staying away from, avoiding issues with talking about I mean, you can talk about your past and where you've come from, but actually you have something that a lot of those people don't have. I mean, you're grateful for the opportunity. So that's really important. And you've used your mind and used mind and skills to get ahead. You've done the best you can, and people want to help people. People want to help people that help themselves. So you need to take everything seriously. So what I would do if I was you and I was in your position is I would think, what is the value that I offer? And the value that you offer is you can that you don't have anything to fall back on, right? So nothing to fall back on. So that's actually very good. So you have nothing to fall back on. So you need to succeed. So you need to take take this opportunity as seriously as possible, right? And do everything you can to work harder, better, appreciate things, be loyal, careful, and learn from the people around you. So those are all things that I would recommend, and then focus on trying to be the best. Focus on being the best. And so, what does that mean? That means, sorry, I'm being the best. It means take feedback and all those sorts of things. Take feedback and do. I mean, all these sorts of things. I mean, you need to work on being the best you can, and so that's the value that you offer, and you can take your experience and feel grateful about what you have and what you can do, and you can work harder and smarter and be more committed than the people around you. Because if you get into a big firm, most of the people there aren't going to be committed to spending their careers with a large law firm. A lot of the people there aren't going to be grateful for the opportunity. That one thing that I see all the time is when I talk to a lot of attorneys in big firms, a lot of them are not grateful for what they have, and because they're not grateful, the world they don't do as well as they could. So you need to be as grateful as you can for the opportunities you have, and then you need to work harder, and you need to make the people you work with feel good about themselves for giving you work when other people may not. You just need to try the hardest and just buckle down and give it all you got. And if you do that, you should probably do very well. Yeah, and so I think that it's a very good question that you just asked, and and I think that the idea is that all you do is you work harder. You try to avoid people. This is another thing too, I would say, is you avoid spending time with toxic people that do not appreciate the opportunity. So it happens in every firm. People will come up to you, other associates, or just talking to even sometimes legal secretaries and paralegals, and they'll talk about how bad the firm is, how there's all these problems, how it's not fair, and then you will get sold on that. And if you are, then you will fail and wonder why you failed. And so you need to make sure that you try to surround yourself with positive people in the firm, and don't listen to all this negative stuff. Because if you got this job and you went to a local law school and you were able to get a job at this big firm, I mean, take it as the most important thing in the world. Like, you're not going to get another opportunity like this if you fail. Like, you can't suddenly think that you're going to get hired at another big firm because you got into this big firm. I mean, you need to take this as like the most important thing in the world, and do the best you can. I remember one of my friends said to me at one point when I was go to college, he was like, you should, and he was going to like some college that he didn't think was very good. But he's like, if I was you, I would just work as hard as you possibly can and take it as seriously as you possibly can, because this is a really good opportunity. It was a very good point. And so that's the same thing I would say to you. Anybody that has gotten the job that you go into, is to do the absolute best you possibly can, because you give it your all. And if you give it your all, I mean, what's so important about this is like your legal career. Again, I say this every time, but if you graduate from law school at the age of 25, you're going to be practicing law probably for another 2 lifetimes. I mean, you'll be practicing for at least another 50 years. So why would you blow it early on by being upset with a firm, or trying to going and listening to negative stuff and so forth? Why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. No one should do that early in your career. So I just wouldn't recommend it. If you have a side business, such as a few small rental properties, like 1 to 5 units, is this something to advertise in a resume or in law firm interviews? Depending on class background, it seems difficult about what. No, you do not talk about the fact that you have rental properties on your resume or in interviews, because a lot of people that you're interviewing with do not have the time, or maybe they're supporting families, or even the money to invest in all these rental properties like you're talking about. So no, you do not want to bring that up and talk about that in interviews. That's just not a good idea. So it's not a smart thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. You don't do that. No, you don't. People do not think it's cool. People do not think it's cool if you're writing down anything that you do that's not related to the practice of law, or some kind of fun hobby like cooking or something. I mean, that's non-threatening, that you do not put on your resume. So no one should put anything to do with any entrepreneurial pursuit on their resume, because if you start putting down the own on these rental properties, the only thing that the law firm is going to think is wow, this person's probably going to leave when their business takes off. So you do not need to say anything about that at all. Let me see, there's one last question. Okay, so yes, this is a nice comment that someone wrote, and I appreciate it. So thank you for that comment. Let me see here. And it is strong. It's important, by the way, to surround to take in as much positive information. Thank you for the person that wrote this. But it's important to surround yourself to learn as much positive information as you can, and so whatever you can do to it's not listening to me necessarily, it's just doing whatever you can to surround yourself in positive information or learn, the better off you're going to be. You stated that women not succeed in law school if one does not understand the system or what is required of them. Explain what or how does one understand the system and what is required prior to going to law school? Okay, well, understanding the system means a lot of times like you have to understand, for example, the importance of your first year grades. So that's part of the system. The better your grades, the better your first year, the better job you'll get. So you need to understand that system. The other things about not just law school, but understanding that the type of law school you go to will often determine how well you do in terms of the job market coming out of law school, and not in terms of how well you do as an attorney, just in terms of the job market. So you need to be very careful of that. So that's just one idea. So no, so you just understanding some of the rules are understanding the importance of grades, understanding where you can get jobs, when you're out of law school, and just a bunch of things like that. So there's no system to understand other than that. I mean, that those are some of the important things I think that you need to understand. Okay, well, thank you everyone for being on this webinar. There are no more questions, so I do appreciate it. I think today's topic was very important just because it does show you, and I'm glad for the person that asked this question about the article that you see on BCG, but it does show you really how important your background and the decisions you make can be, and the people you surround yourself with. And it's always been that way. I mean, the people you surround yourself with will determine how happy and successful, but also the level that you rise to. So thanks again, and I will talk to everyone next week. And just as kind of a reminder, I mean, if you think of things like went throughout the week that are helpful questions that you may have, and just things that you would like to know about that I may know that you don't, I'd be happy to answer them. And the only other thing I would say too is the people that come on these webinars, it's very smart because you're just getting the perspective about things and learning about things that can really change the direction of your career. So I'm glad to help, and I will see everyone next week. Thanks.